Got your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365, and we are lucky enough to have J.C. Allen, who is now writing for the Bucks outlet on Sports Illustrated. Same as Johnny Mac. Too much sports. I'm surrounded by Sports Illustrated guys here on Birds 365. JC's going to give us the update on the Bucks for the big Monday night game between the Eagles heading down to Tampa this week. JC, Johnny Mac, and Johnny Mac here. How was your summer?
It was good. It went by too quick. You know, we cover sports, guys. There's never a dull moment. There's always something to write about.
Yeah. Well, at least we're not in Chicago, JC. Well, we could be in Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, let's not. Things aren't going too well in Chicago right now.
All right, let me start there then, John. Thank you for the entree. Last week I didn't see a lot of the Bucks Bears game, but I noticed that Justin Fields, who might be the best quote unquote running quarterback, sorry, Eagle fans, in the entire National Football League, rushed for all of 3 yards. Yeah. Were they just not? Has Chicago moved on from it and said, we got to pass the football? We can't expect our running quarterback to be our number one offensive option. Did the Bucks do a great job at just shutting him down? Why wasn't Justin Fields running the football any part of a deciding factor in that game last week?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think, Justin Fields, obviously, his comments went viral yesterday about being robotic and kind of blaming the coaching for wanting him to be more of that pocket passer. And that's something that Justin Fields needs to prove this year. Chicago's armed with 2 potentially top 10 picks, and there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. It's essentially a contract year for him in year 3. Where, if he plays well, they're going to pick up his 3rd-year option and then maybe the talk extension. But also the Bucs defense is really good, especially their run defense. They're right up there with your Eagles, letting up 52 yards, 54 yards a game. They are not letting opponents get anywhere on the ground. And they had a great game plan to contain Justin Fields. It worked perfectly, and they were able to get a ton of pressure on him with a kind of a banged-up line and not a very good line to begin with. So, that was their number one thing to take away. They took it away and said, all right, beat us throwing the ball. And Justin Fields apparently can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs, you mentioned the Eagles have been tremendous through the first 2 weeks against the run game, but they weren't very good. They were middle of the road last year, and fans were very upset in the Super Bowl. And a lot of their philosophy is, hey, we'll give up a run here and there as long as we can limit the explosive plays.
Right.
The Bucs, on the other hand, have been tremendous stopping the run for years, basically since Vita Vea showed up. Is it as simple as you can't move him? I asked Brian Johnson that yesterday. Is that the key to it all? Is it that simple, or is it more than that?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, he is a big man who can take on multiple blockers and still push them around. He's very strong and athletic as well. Week 1, I don't know if you guys saw, he chased down a screen about 30 yards down the field to a running back. He's just an incredible size and force, but it also has to do with Bulls' game plan too. They've got, they have 2 guys on the outside, and Shaq Barrett and JTS, that are really good at setting the edge. Very active cornerbacks who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and tackle and run support, and 2 amazing sideline-to-sideline linebackers in Devin White and Levante David. So they've built it's a team defense, but certainly Vita Vea is sometimes an unstoppable and unmovable force, and it's hard to get anything going when you got a guy that big, that fast, that strong, that athletic, trying to break into the backfield and chasing runners down.
JC, there were some rumors floating around during this offseason about the Buccaneers potentially moving David. I didn't necessarily buy them. I thought it was more teams wishful that the Bucs would be willing to do something like that. Yeah. What did you make of those rumors, or anything you were able to uncover about it? Was it legit? Did the Bucs talk to the team, any other teams? What was like the asking price for it if they were going to move him? The way the defense had played the first 2 weeks sounds like a very good thing.
Talking about White,
Devin White.
White. Yeah, I meant White. Excuse me.
I was gonna correct it, but no. There was no contract. I mean, there was no trade rumors or trade talks at all whatsoever. Pretty much Devin White requested a trade. He wanted to get paid, rightfully so. We've seen this game. You look around all the injuries that have happened. It's just one play, and then your future's up in smoke. But the the Bucks held fast. They said, we're not trading you. You're playing on your 5th-year option. A lot of teams do this. You're still a part of our plans. They had a meeting behind closed doors, and kind of Devin White bought back in, skipped all the voluntary workouts and stuff, but showed up for training camp when it was ready to roll, showed up in shape, and has been playing some of the best football that he's played. That week 1 game was probably the best complete game I've ever seen Devin White play, as far as a coverage standpoint, instinct standpoint, tackling standpoint. He was all over the field. But no, he's going to play into the 5th-year option. Jason Light loves him. Todd Bowles is like a father figure mentor for him. So if he continues to play this way, he'll probably get his $18 to $20 million contract, potentially even with the Bucks. But there was same thing with Mike Evans. He's not being traded. No one's going to give up anything worth it for the Bucks to trade him. He'll play out the rest of this season, extent of the season. Maybe they'll have some contract talks prior to free agency, but if not, they'll do what they did the last 3 years with some of their premier players in Levante David, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. So go test free agent market. If you can get that contract, thank you for your service. If not, come back, we'll talk. And I think that's likely with Evans.
I think we kind of buried the lead. I should have started with probably Baker Mayfield because, he's been pretty solid through 2 games. I don't know if many of us saw that coming. I don't know if he and Emily are going to move into Raymond James Stadium like back in the day, but he's been solid. And you mentioned Justin Fields he's playing for a contract. Let's be honest, a longer term thing. What have you seen from Baker Mayfield? Is it a mirage, or is he better than people think?
I think he's always been better than people think. You look at what he's had to endure through his career. 7 different head coaches, 6 different offensive coordinators until this season with the Bucks, making it 8th and 7. He had some success his rookie year under a whirlwind of an organization and regime there. He had the most success he's ever had was in 2020 under Kevin Stefanski, which kind of runs a similar style offense, this Shanahan-McVay branch of offense. He had the most success he's ever had there. 11-5 was a defensive stop on Chad Henne on a scramble on 4th and 13 from going to the AFC Championship game. And we might not even be talking about Baker being available. Last season, he was never a fit in Carolina. That seemed like an ownership push to me to get a big name, former Heisman Trophy winner for that quarterback competition. And he didn't do well there, expectedly. And then kind of put some things together those final couple of games with LA. But I know the Bucks are high on him. They were going to bring him in here likely if they could have swung a trade for him last season if Brady retired. But no, this offense fits him like a T. I mean, it really does highlight not only his, but most of the offense strengths, the offensive line, the skill set, players at wide receiver, tight end, and running back, and most importantly, Baker. It allows him to kind of just put the ball in his hand, be a point guard, don't take the easy passes, don't force anything. We've seen that. He hasn't had any turnovers so far. He's only had 1 sack, and that was on a beautifully designed pressure by Brian Flores, who's one of the best, defensive coordinators in the league. And I think when you look at the marriage of this system between Dave Canales and Baker Mayfield, what new offensive coordinator Dave Canales preaches is it's not always about the big shot, or for lack of a better term, risk it, no biscuit, right? He compares it to a heavyweight fight. You take those body blows, body blow. And then, when they're reeling from those, body shots, then you come in with a haymaker, you beat them down the field deep. And that's what they've done, the last 2 games. So is it sustainable? We'll see. This is their first big test against a really good defense. But so far he's been playing really well. And I don't see why it can't continue throughout the season.
Know that when you take Tom Brady out of the equation and put in anybody, Baker Mayfield happens to be the guy, but changing from Brady to anyone else is going to be a massive change. So you knew that there was going to be a specific direction change. Canales' offense with what they wanted to do, is it Baker-centric? Did they design the offense around Baker Mayfield's skill set, or is this a Canales offense that they were going to put in place and they just thought he was a fit? How did the whole making the change, not only at quarterback, but also an offensive coordinator, play itself out from the offseason to where you are 2 games in?
So the base of Canales' offense is kind of quarterback friendly. So multiple quarterbacks with multiple styles can fit into that. It usually relies on someone who's got a little bit of athleticism. Brady wouldn't have been a great fit. Someone who can roll out, do some boots and waggles and stuff like that. So Baker naturally fit perfectly. Kyle Trask, who was in the competition early on, he actually looked a lot better. He came coming out of Florida. He was tabbed as a pocket passer strictly, right? And he showed that athleticism to do some boots and some waggles and some stuff like that, some RPOs. It was predicated based on just someone who can do that. Now, along the way, they have tailor-made it for Baker, what he can do well, what he'll struggle at, they probably won't call. Just like any good offensive coordinator, you don't want to call things just because you like to play. You need to make sure that your guys can execute it as well. So
Sure.
it's definitely tailored now towards Baker since he won the competition. But if something were to happen to him and Kyle Trask would have to come in, they would take a lot of that stuff out and put stuff, designed specifically to meet Kyle's skill set. So yes and no. It wasn't like, all right, we need Baker because he fits. But now it's like, okay, Baker's our guy. Let's make this the best system for him and so he can feel the most comfortable back there.
The supporting cast, JC, doesn't look great on paper. Losing Ryan Jensen on the offensive line, moving Tristan Wirfs from the right side to the left side. Running backs, Rashad White, I guess, is the lead back. It doesn't jump out at you. So other than Mike Evans, who's playing great, by the way, despite that contract kerfuffle, it doesn't look great on paper. Is that how the feeling is in Tampa?
No, I mean, well, they still got Chris Godwin too. You can't forget him.
Yeah,
He's Mike and Chris are one of the top duos at wide receiver in the entire league, and they're enough sometimes just to give defenses nightmares, right? But no, you're right. There's a lot of changes on the offensive line. Tristan Wirfs moving from as an all-pro right tackle to left tackle hasn't really skipped a beat. He's been tremendous there already. There were some big questions, obviously with Jensen out. They started on Robert Hainsey, for the second year in a row, and he's gotten kind of tossed around a little bit. So there is some, hesitation there. Can he, handle this defensive line for the Eagles? These are some big boys, some athletic boys coming at you. So that's a little bit of a question mark we have here. I think all eyes are on that one. But the right side of the line, Cody Mock coming in as a second-round pick, former left tackle at North Dakota State, has been phenomenal in pass protection. He's struggled a little bit in run protection, but pass protection, he's been phenomenal. Luke Gedeke, the right tackle who played right tackle in college, they moved him over to left guard last year. Didn't work out. He was benched after like 6 or 7 games. He's actually played really well too. He's rated out as the 9th best tackle in football per PFF, and the line in itself is ranked as the 9th best line in football per PFF as well. So a weakness that a lot of people identified has kind of, I wouldn't say turned into a strength, but turned into one where maybe there's not as much concern as everyone thought. So that's good. And then
now, real quick, JC, where does the competition come into that? Because Minnesota doesn't have a great defensive front.
Right.
Chicago might have the worst defensive front. So is that sort of inflated early in the season?
Well, we'll see. That's the thing. This is going to be a big test for this Bucs team in a variety of ways. What I will say is, they got Yannick Ngakoue. They placed Yannick Ngakoue, DeMarcus Walker, and also Danielle Hunter, and they've only let up 1 sack, and those are some tremendous pass rushers in the league. So that bode well. I don't think either team's going to be doing a lot of running this week, or they'll try to, but I just don't think these two defenses are really just excellent against the run. So it's going to be difficult for either of these teams to get the ground game going. So I'm looking for a lot more passing in this game, and the fact that they've had positive grades in pass protection really kind of give me a little bit of pause and saying, oh, they're going to get mauled this week. I think that bodes well for them. But it's still a tremendous challenge. I mean, that they're going up against, and the first real test of the year for this Bucs offense is this defense coming up at them.
And speaking about depth, Cody Mark comes off the Viking Raiders of WWE fame, and they don't miss him. Maybe guy looks like he's ready to jump into the WWE immediately these days. I know he was a draftable player this year. Who I thought actually had a chance to go to the bottom of the first round. They take him early in the second, and you plug him right in, and looks like he's ready to go from day one in the NFL. I saw an article you wrote for SI the other day about the Tampa Bay rookies. Their rookie class has stepped in and been pretty outstanding for them right away. How much are they leaning on the rookies across the board this year in Buccaneers?
Oh yeah, I mean there's multiple reasons why they have so many rookies on this team. They need to get younger faster, and also 42% of their cap space right now is eaten up by players who aren't going to be on that team. So they had to go bargain bin shopping and rely on rookies, and they've got 13 of them on their roster this year, 6 of them undrafted, and one of them, an undrafted free agent, Christian Izien, who's their nickel cornerback, was just nominated for Rookie of the Week. So he's been making a tremendous impact, back-to-back interceptions, always around the ball, and just a sound tackler as well. Saved a big play last week. Kalijah Cansey, he only played for one half against the Minnesota Vikings, but boy, was his impact felt immediately. So he's dealing with a calf strain, hoping he'll be back this week, but it looks like potentially another week for him. We'll see once the injury report comes out today how he's doing. And then Cody Mock, starter at right guard, has been doing a really solid job. Needs to get a little bit better, tighten things up in run blocking, but pass blocking, he's been one of the better guards in the league. I think he's got a mid 80 grade per PFF in pass blocking. Then they begin contributions. Trey Palmer, 6th round wide receiver out of Nebraska. He's caught a touchdown in his first game. He's been making contributions, as has Yaya Diaby, their 3rd rounder, big, athletic, strong, fast, outside linebacker who'll get plenty of rotation. And then Sean Tucker's RB2, the kid from Syracuse who would have been drafted probably on day 2 if not for a heart issue that popped up during the combine testing. So they've gotten tons of and the rest of the guys are all playing special teams really well. So they've gotten tons of impact from this rookie class, and it's helped the team, again, get faster, and especially younger, quicker, since, Tom Brady and the old vets have left this past year.
I'm with you, JC. I think the passing game is going to decide this one, and I know the Eagles want to get their passing game going because it hasn't looked great over the first 2 weeks.
Hasn't take flight?
No, it hasn't. 2 players I want to talk about on that Tampa Bay defense. One, Shaq Barrett, who missed most of last season. He looks like himself, at least from the outside looking in. And then one of my favorite players in the NFL is Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yes.
I knew his dad. His dad was a great cornerback, maybe the best tackling cornerback I've ever seen in my life. And if genetics means anything, this proves it, because his son is a heck of a player. And he plays safety, unlike his dad who played corner. But he's a very versatile player. Just those 2 players, how important they are to Tampa Bay's defense.
Yeah, so I mentioned Shaq a little bit earlier. His ability to set the edge as a run defender is so underrated. He's one of the better run defenders in the league, especially at that outside linebacker edge spot. But one of the biggest things you worry about with an athlete coming off an Achilles injury is the speed still going to be there? Because usually they lost a step. He's on the other side of 30. And that hasn't been the case. He looks like the Shaq Bear from old. Got a sack and a pick 6 in this past game, but the pressures were there in week 1 as well. And having him there opens up so much too for Joe Tryon-Schlenk on the other side, who had 2 sacks of his own. So the duo of those 2 are really dynamic and make it difficult for teams to move the ball the way they want to. They can both strong run defenders, and they both have the juice and speed to get after the quarterback, especially if the pocket's getting pushed in the middle by Vita Vea. Usually is going to push those guys right out into the arms of Shaq or JTS. And then Antoine Winfield Jr., I tabbed him in my bold predictions as an All-Pro this year. He's just always by the ball, he's one of those rare safeties that has the incredible knack for getting to the quarterback. 10 sacks in his career. You can play him anywhere, nickel, strong safety, free safety, and he's going to be a problem. He is truly one of these great players at safety in the league. The Bucs were fortunate to get him in the second round. He's playing for a contract, and he's playing lights out right now. So I think I just saw on Good Morning Football, Jason McCourty tabbed him as the third best defensive back in all of football through two weeks. So, he's just a tremendous athlete, tremendous tackler, and he's got a knack for being around the ball, whether that's, with takeaways or whether that's just, getting the quarterback to the ground. Can't say enough about him. And they're both great guys too, just personally.
JC, before you joined it, John and I were talking about the fact that the Eagles made a change at punter this week, which means if you change the punter, you change the holder as well. And what kind of an effect would that have on Jake Elliott, who's kicking like maybe the best kicker in the NFL through 2 weeks? Bucs made a change at kicker this year, moving away from Ryan Suckup, who was there a couple years, including the Super Bowl year, and they bring in Chase McLaughlin, who's another. We've seen enough of these guys who've kind of moved around from team to team. Why the change? How has McLaughlin looked so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, Suckup was steady Eddie, right? He's going to give you everything from the 40 in. But at some point, you need a guy who can kick for distance. And Suckup just wasn't a guy that could do that. It also saved about $3.5 million by letting him go too. So that was a big deciding factor in a year where you're strapped with a salary cap. So they brought him in because they wanted a guy who could do some distance. They brought in Rodrigo Blankenship goggles to compete with him, and McLaughlin was just steady throughout camp. And then you look at that first game, 57-yard field goal. It paid off exactly what they wanted and paid dividends. So. We'll see. I think Jake Camarda is a real story back there as kickers. Probably one of the best punters in the league right now. He had a punt last week that went over 70 yards and was probably 80 yards of airtime. It was just in one of the best punts I've ever seen in my life. It was really good. So they got a good special teams unit back there.
JC, as we head into this Monday night game, I think all of us are a little bit surprised it's 2-0 versus 2-0. Maybe not the Eagles side, but the Eagles haven't been that impressive, at least if you date back to last season, what they were. Tampa Bay, one of the biggest surprises. So that's what I want from you. What has been the biggest surprise of this team through the first 2 weeks, and the biggest disappointment that maybe you thought was going to be good and hasn't been as good as you thought?
I think the biggest surprise is, I had both of these. I had both of this teams coming in 2-0. I had the Bucs winning these first two games, so I thought they would be able to get those first two wins, and then I thought coming into this game, this is a loss, and this isn't just a loss. This is a bad loss. But what surprised me the most is the defense playing as well as they have out the gate. I knew they were going to have to carry the offense for a little bit until, first year play caller, new system, that everyone's learning. They're still learning it, still don't have the full system down. But it's going to take a little while for the offense to get going. The defense but I didn't think the defense would be as dominant as they've been, and I didn't think the offense would gel and quick as quickly as they have. Not saying they've looked perfect, but they've definitely looked a lot better. Especially, again, level of competition you take into the consideration of that too. But they definitely looked a lot better and a lot more smoother than I thought. I think the biggest disappointment so far has been the health. Injuries is one thing that's going to derail this team so far. Carlton Davis is dealing with turf toe. Looks like he's not going to play this week as well as he did last week. Potentially, he won't come back potentially till after the bye. Turf toe is one of those injuries you just don't mess around with. And then Kalijah Cansey with the calf strain. If they start losing more pieces, it's going to get ugly quickly, especially in that secondary. They've got to be able to stay healthy. It's a war of attrition, and they do not have the depth to start losing starters in multiple places on this team. So, it's part of the game, but it's also disappointing that, hey, we're already 2 weeks in, 1 week in, and we're losing our starting defensive tackle, our starting cornerback, and So I think those would be the things. But this game, like I said, coming into the season, I had this as a loss. If you would have told me
Looks a
where we
lot
were
tougher
sitting,
right now. I think we all did,
Yeah.
but now it looks
right,
yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
like it should be a close matchup and actually an enjoyable game to watch, not just a blowout.
Yeah.
I need your behind the scenes read, what they admit to, and what you think actually the power structure is on the defense of the Bucs. We deal with it here in Philadelphia, where we got a new offensive coordinator who we know is calling plays, but the Eagles' entire staff puts the game plan together before the week starts. Nick Sirianni being an offensive head coach. Well, you got a defensive head coach down there in Tampa, and two guys who kind of share the defensive coordinator position. What is the actual power structure on the defense there? How much of this is just a Bulls defense that he takes under wrap because he's also the head coach? How much responsibility does he give to his DCs? How's that shake out in Tampa?
Well, both DCs had an opportunity to call plays in the preseason, and this is a group that's been together for quite a while now. So he takes advice from everybody. But Bowles is the one calling plays on game day. He's going to be the head honcho making all those decisions as the head coach responsibilities and the defensive coordinator responsibilities. He kind of lets the offense run itself. If he wants to, if there's something that he needs to chime in, that he'll feel he needs to chime in. But for the most part, he's not. The offensive coordinator has full autonomy over there. But Bowles is going to always take it. It's a very open. He's got an open door policy with his players, with his coaches. If there's something that you think that I could be doing better, if there's something that you think that we could be doing better, game plan wise, something that I've missed or something that you think we can exploit, he's an open door. Come talk to him. They'll talk about it. And if it's something he feels like they're going to help him, he's going to add it in there. So he's not one of these, this is my way or the highway, my show, let's go type of guys.
All right, JC. I see you got to run at. Sorry, we kept you so long.
At
fine.
I could go all
Allen, NFL, Bucs Game Day, powered by Sports Illustrated. So love a fellow SI guy.
Yes,
so
sir.
Doing a tremendous job down there. Make sure everybody to follow JC. Get all your intel on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in advance of Monday night. Who's going to win the game, JC? On your way out?
I've gone back and forth on this. I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. And I think this is a game that's going to make national pundits kind of go, this Bucs team is a lot better than we thought it was. And maybe the Super Bowl hangover is real, even though they're sitting at 3-0. And, is Jalen Hurts fully healthy? We got the report from McNabb saying that he's only at 60 to 70%. But is that a concern going forward? Ultimately, I think the Eagles still edge this one out. I just think they're too talented of a team. I think the two teams match up pretty well, especially with the Eagles not playing like a Super Bowl, like an NFC championship caliber team. But I still have them edging out the win. I'm going to go 23-20 Eagles.
Ooh, then it'll be an enjoyable game day story right thereafter because it sounds like going right down to the wire. I think it's
something where the Bucs are trailing at the end too. Maybe they're even up by a touchdown, and then the Eagles come back and they score that final touchdown, break the hearts of Bucs fans, and say, okay, they can win a gritty game, but should this have been a gritty game at all? It's the Bucs, So go ahead, shoot.
I was going to ask you the other night, and you couldn't have possibly known. I happened to be on the air on WIP the other night at 11:30. You shot me a text. Do me a favor. Give me your top 3 Eagles on offense and defense. I said, must be working on an article about comparing Eagles top players to Tampa top players. Did I miss it? You're going to put it up today or tomorrow?
Yeah,
why'd you text me 11:30 at night? It wasn't a problem. I just wanted to know.
I don't know. I figured you're doing the late night CBS radio hit still. So I figured
I was on Philadelphia radio, but that's okay. You were right. I was up.
Okay. Yeah. Just kind of doing a little advanced scouting. I mean, I can read all the stuff. I think I read a couple of Johnny Mac's articles and stuff. But just, I want to make sure I'm giving the best content I can to our fans. I think as writers, as hosts, we want to do the best we can and give the best content we can to our fans and to the readers that are going to, or listeners that are going to be doing it. So I'm not as familiar as the Eagles as I'd like to be. So why not lean into a resource I have to kind of get a little bit more information and make sure I'm delivering, the best possible information I can, especially leading up to the game day.
Here's my watch out for Jalen Carter, JC. Whew,
I know.
He is a problem.
Yes, I'm fully aware. I've watched him tape. He is, his dreams and nightmares. So
you will see him live on Monday night. JC, great stuff. We appreciate you jumping on board with us. Thanks much. We will certainly get you on down the road again.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
JC Allen of now Sports Illustrated, doing the Sports Illustrated thing.
By the way, I want to jump in because JC said something. I don't want to scare Eagles fans. He's talking about Donovan
McNabb thing. Yeah, I was going to get that.
What Donovan said was he was playing at 65 to 70% last season, coming off the shoulder injury, not this season. So I don't want people to get scared. Obviously, he hasn't played like himself, but he did pretty well in the Super Bowl anyway. So that was what Donovan was saying was he was playing at about 65, 70%. Last
year, which, oh, by the way, I would say was applicable for maybe the final regular season game against the Giants. And then the Eagles had the off week before they played the Giants again, and 49ers thereafter. How close to 100% do you think Jalen was by putting that final regular season game aside? By the time the playoffs started, the 3 postseason games, do you think he was only at 85?
Well, certainly not in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was pretty damn good in the Super Bowl. I think that first game back, he was probably at 65, 70%. He did not look good. He was kind of gutting it through. And then it got a little bit better. And I think that extra week before the Super Bowl, I think it really helped him. But he clearly was never 100%.
They had an extra week before the playoffs too, because they didn't have to play in the playoff round.
Exactly.
So I think we're talking about 1 week, Donovan, where he was probably cutting it out and playing at less than 100%.
Yeah,
I think he was pretty much fine by the time the playoffs rolled around. But that was the reference that JC was making. Donovan's got a new media gig, so people now taking quotes from Donovan McNabb. Okay. You get more quotes from McMullen and McDonald, the Mac and Mac guys, coming back here on Birds 365.